Hey guys,
Amy Chella.
Amy Challa's in the house.
Yes, she is.
Hold on.
Kurt, I was going to say, Kurt, but I wish I could have told you, like right before she comes on, just freeze. And you see how long it takes before
It's
she figures
unfortunate
out.
that you didn't get that in on time because look at how this goes. Oh my gosh. I feel like I start every post-show conversation with, oh my gosh.
You do.
Season
Could you?
six.
Could you?
You do.
Could you?
Yeah.
Do something about? Could
I
you
mean-
break? Yeah. Change that up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I
change
mean,
it up.
there
You're gonna
are
be
other
sorry,
words in the book.
but I'm going to change it up. Because other things actually do come to mind.
Right.
And I do this filter thing. And
Oh my
then,
gosh, is actually
oh
code.
my gosh, comes up. Yeah.
It's code.
Code. You listen, bozos.
That's right. You idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
So should we dive into the remaining questions? I also
Sure. We have a
thoughts.
couple of things.
Well, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And want to hear your thoughts too.
Yes.
Which order?
Let's go
Let's
with your
do my
thoughts.
Let's go with your thoughts.
So which makes sense to me to look back on season 6 and like what strikes me is the connection between the 9 domains of integration and wisdom. And one of my favorite things about the season was the idea that wisdom is to be found and can be found because she is sitting on the corner waiting to be found.
Yep.
Like it's not something that we either have or don't have. And so I loved that. But just as you guys were speaking, like when you said this is hard work, like and it takes a while, like 2 millimeters a day. That's like sloth-ish. And then it hit me going back to season 4 of 9 Domains of Integration. Like much of that was new information to me. And like hearing you speak, Kurt, at Pepperdine, I'm like, I'm familiar with these terms. I'm familiar with what he's talking about. And then it took me back to like my youth, like my toddler days of building blocks. I'm going to land this plane. But this is all like the 9 Domains of Integration, season 4. It took a while for me to assimilate it. And it's the patience with the building blocks because wisdom, we hear this information, we gather it. It takes a while for it all. That's the slowness, right?
Right. That's right.
Work is hard and slow and enjoy it in the moment because it's not going to change. It's not going to speed up. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, the book of Ecclesiastes, in many respects, like you just kind of like distilled the book of Ecclesiastes. I'm sure you knew that you were doing that.
Yes,
so,
I thought I'm going to do this. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But this, like, because Ecclesiastes, like, I mean, it's another one of the pieces of wisdom literature, this sense that, like, you know, the teacher is looking at all these things that happen to people, whether you're rich or poor, doesn't matter. Like, everybody dies and everybody toils, everybody has trouble. Some things are good, but even the good things go away, all the things. And throughout it, though, the teacher is saying, when those moments of deep joy come, enjoy them and be aware that they are from God. And it is this notion of in these moments, we are going to attune to the presence of God being with us. And part of wisdom, I think, is becoming aware that there are probably a lot of very small moments like that in the course of our day that we choose not to pay attention to. There's Lady Wisdom on the street corner calling for me in this moment, and I'm just blowing right past her. Now, of course, to stop and pay attention to that takes time. And it forces me to address all the anxiety that I'm walking around with because I'm, I got to get to this and to this and to this and to this. But if I'm going to pause and gaze at Lady Wisdom, gaze in this moment, and exhale. I'm going to have to let this thing go for a moment. But if I'm willing to do this over and over and over again, multiple times, I begin to collect multiple moments of beauty and goodness and wisdom that then starts to slow my pace over time. And that's what Ecclesiastes is asking us to do. Yeah, it's good.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Did you have something else, Aim?
Nope, those were my thoughts. I just checked my notes.
So in looking at a couple of the questions that we didn't get to that came through, one of them is asking about whether or not wisdom is only a subject to the mind or can it be in the body. We talked about that some in the third episode of this season, I believe. But Kurt, do you want to speak to that a little bit? And there are also, if we have any, if I would say you have any resources that recommended to heal the mind-body connection. If there's anything that comes to mind on that, aside from that episode.
Yeah, I think, again, it's helpful to remember that we live in a world that at one level, though we are more than happy to indulge in any and all kinds of things on behalf of the body in ways that are often not helpful, right? I mean, internet porn comes to mind. Our excesses of consumption of food is another that comes to mind. There's all kinds of ways in which we are quick to let our bodies have what we think they want in any way, shape, or form. While at the same time, we are also, interestingly enough, a culture that grants a lot of authority to the notion of what we think. So we give a lot of power to the field of, to the voices of scientists, because it's a way of thinking. And we come to know things are true by virtue of this kind of like scientific method. And that's how we know things. When in fact, our bodies are crucially important in the process of becoming people of wisdom. But again, not even so much just a matter of like, well, how can I accrue knowledge? But the wisdom of what it is like for me to become known by someone else. To the degree that I become more deeply known by the two of you, I sense a greater state of comfort and confidence, literally in my chest, in my face. I have a sense of being okay in the world because I sense it in my body because I'm being known by you. Not because I've acquired more information. And not least being when we become known by people in the course of revealing our more vulnerable aspects of our lives, but also when we have to do the work of repairing ruptures. The repair of ruptures is a powerful resource for becoming people of greater wisdom. Because I now also am aware of what it really requires to work through a hard thing with someone and have more with that person on the other side of the repair of that rupture than I had even before the rupture took place. Not something that I would be something I would imagine. And so my body is intricately involved in all of that. Because if I have to come and repair something with you, a rupture that we have, I'm tense. I'm not looking forward to that. But in the wake of it, I have a very different experience in my physicality that then is, I make sense of this. Remember, first we sense and then we make sense of what we sense. And so the body is always involved, because when in the question, when we ask, is it just the mind or can it be the body? From an interpersonal neurobiological perspective, remember that the mind is an embodied and relational process. It is not just my thinking brain. It is my embodied and relational experience in the world, right, as much as it is anything else. And then I think as far as resources are concerned, I think, again, wisdom is not something that we necessarily, it's like you go to the library and like you get a book on wisdom. Like here are wise things. Like it's much more a matter of there are certain things I'm going to do in my life. And if simultaneously I am asking God for wisdom, please create wisdom within me, we're going to find that becomes, I become a person of greater wisdom as a byproduct of attuning to these 9 domains of the mind, these 9 domains of integration. I become a person, and there are multiple ways in which that can take place. What are the relationships that I'm engaging with on a regular basis, by whom I'm being deeply known, whether that's a counselor, a psychotherapist, whether those are good friends, whether those are prayer partners. What am I doing in terms of my artistic expression? Pep, you were showing, was it your mom this week? Dude.
Rosie.
Dude.
Yeah.
And she's how old?
91.
91. And like
So incredible.
Like the woman is getting after it.
She is.
Yeah.
She paints every day. Every day. And she's also using it as a
Every day.
connection too she's got some of her grandkids that come by and paint with her. My daughters go over once in a while, probably once a month, and paint with her. She's got a neighbor that comes over and paints with her. And yeah, she's doing it. She's doing it.
So like that is an action that opens the door to wisdom. Asking the question, well, what are we? What's some good literature that we're reading? Whether it's good fiction, whether it's good resource material, whether it's effective, stuff that we would read on the care of the inner life. That's another example. Like, are we actually putting ourselves, this whole notion of like we're creating beauty, like your mom is. Mm-hmm. But we're also putting ourselves in the path of oncoming beauty. Like, am I spending time with great art? Am I spending time with great music? Am I spending time reading literature that is going to evoke things, that's going to have me working at things, that allows me to accrue wisdom, not just as knowledge. This is not taking from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but it is receiving. But it requires me to do the work of being open to that. I can't do it quickly, even though I might feel like I desperately want it.
Yeah.
Well, and putting ourselves in the path of oncoming beauty, like we can do that. Like we can show up, and that's pretty. I mean this in the greatest sense. It's like entry level. Like yeah, I can bring myself to a museum and have an open spirit to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
right
it's
on.
not complicated. It's not. Which I like.
Yeah. Well, Pep, I think too, we were talking before we were recording today, we were talking about this experience that you've had as part of, directing / producing the work that you've been doing with your client. And, I'm thinking of the range of experience that you described while you guys were on tour, and the wisdom that one grows into as you were doing all that work with people of all this diverse skill sets, and you, like a great conductor of a beautiful symphony, are bringing things together. And that takes work and effort and time, and like in the very act of like performing this artistic craft that you're so good at, wisdom also kind of comes pouring in from what you learn from that experience.
Yeah, I think about a lot of times. I think wisdom is, and I'm thinking, having this thought right now. So
Yeah,
please tell the people if I'm being wrong-headed.
Caveat.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to come out.
Can't wait for this.
No, so I think about the my year of apprenticing in theater, and I think about the years that I worked in Hollywood, and the years that I worked in the theater, and all of those things, and along the way, we're obviously picking up knowledge. But there's also this, what I would call wisdom, that comes from these experiences that I've been having with other people all these years, that then when you're put in a situation where you have to call the shots or make the decisions or whatever, it's not just knowledge that you're relying on. And it's not just knowledge. It's honestly not just knowledge of what the client wants. It's not just, I'm not hired just for knowledge. There's this other level component that has taken a lot of time. Yep. And it also, like, it's when I was sharing with you guys about being put into a situation where I had to do something that I'd really never done before. But I had the wisdom because of all of that time and experience to do that in a way that was effective and good, that I couldn't have just done, I couldn't have just learned how to do overnight and done it. Does that ring true?
Yeah. And at the time, you don't know that it's, sorry, Kurt, that it's, that what you're doing 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you don't know what it's doing.
You don't have any idea.
No. I think about when you've told us before, when you were at Burt Reynolds for that year. Right. And the work schedule you guys had.
Oh my gosh.
Dude.
It was silly. I mean, it was.
No, it's crazy. That's worse than like an intern year at Temple University Hospital. I mean,
we had 2 days off out of 365 days, and we would work from literally morning until the show came down at night, and then, after the show, and if you cleaned up from the show and you gathered everybody's laundry and you did the laundry and you did all your responsibilities, then you went to class.
At midnight.
Until 2 or 3 in the morning, sometimes later than that.
Oh my gosh.
There was a level of what would happen in those classes that you're so tired that you have no guards to put up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so people were having breakthroughs with their work because there was nothing to stop them from not doing it because you were just so beyond.
Yeah, right. Well, I think, Amy, you said this just a moment ago, this sense that, like, when you're doing this, you're just trying to get from Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday to Friday to get to the end of the 365 days or to that one day that you get a break and pray that you're not, like, sick all day long while you're
or
off.
They don't call you in to clean the theater and you make the mistake of answering the phone. Yeah. And
right.
there is you like you go through a year like that, not realizing that you're even like what you're learning. I mean, that you're
incorporating, right?
What you're incorporating, not learn, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I know how to do this.
Right.
How did I?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think so to your point, Amy, like we don't know that we're doing it at the time, but I will say that when you it's like the old. We've used this example a lot here that, like, if I were to ask how many yellow cars have you seen in the last week, you might not be able to answer. But if we were to give you the assignment, count the number of yellow cars, come back next week and tell me, you wouldn't just know the answer to that question. You'd be counting yellow cars for a month because you're primed to do it. I think it is also important and helpful for us to hear from others. While you're in that stage, Pep, for example, when I'm just trying to get I know I'm learning things, but I don't know that I'm learning things. It's helpful to hear from someone else to say, just so you know, there are things that you're learning that you don't know you're learning, and I want you to trust me that that's happening here.
Yeah.
That to have an outside voice, again, this is lady wisdom calling, right? This is about what it means to immersing ourselves in these texts. We can't talk about wisdom and then like, oh, I hope, like I want wisdom. I hope it shows up. No, we've got to go put in our 363 days of work.
Right.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I will say that when I started that program, I went into that program on track 2 with an eye towards a plan for the future. I mean, I knew I was going there to learn. I was there for that purpose. It wasn't like I just willy-nilly showed up and, let this happen to me. Right. Yeah.
Right. But so I would say, oh my gosh. So think about that in terms of our life.
Yeah.
Most of us are not waking up in the mornings, and we're waking up and like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to get through my freaking day. We're not waking up and pausing and acknowledging today, I'm going to work at incorporating wisdom into my life. Like I'm going to be more attuned to what I'm sensing, imaging, feeling, thinking, and behaving. I'm going to bring these 9 domains, my attention to these 9 different, like I'm going to love the Lord my God with all my heart. So like I'm going to read, I'm going to pray, like because I long to be a person that looks like Proverbs 8. And this is what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to have to, part of that process is being in a community of people where we are reminding each other that this is a process that's going to take a lifetime. And the temptation will be to shame ourselves for what wisdom we have not yet accrued. And then when we do accrue it, I shame myself for not having accrued it until now.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking like, heck, I'm running out of time. And so it's, again, the community is important to remind us that our mission is to be in the game and doing what we are called to do in this moment that we have. Not stepping back to judge, like, why did it take me this long to get here? And why haven't I? Why am I no more wise than I am? Like that, again, that's running on track 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well.
All right, folks.
Season 6 in the can.
It's a
In the
wrap, baby.
can.
Yeah.
I can't wait for season 7.
Yeah.
We can't wait either, Amy, for you to figure out what that's going to be so Pepper and I can start to prepare.
Yeah. Let us know.
I will. On a need-to-know basis. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. Minute and a half. I'll give you a minute and a half.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Love you
Thanks to
guys.
all our listeners. All right. We'll see you soon. All right.